today we have with us Mr. Amit Kedia, working for HSBC in the trade business segment in corporate banking. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Thank you so much, Nivan, for having me on your podcast. It's a pleasure to be here. Nothing more to add. Please go on.
Awesome. So we're going to look at the corporate and investment banking sector today, and a major part of that is decision making and deal making. And there are so many psychological influences and factors affecting decision making and deal making. So let's talk about deal sourcing. Recently, or not recently, I guess you could say the last 5 to 10 years, there's been a boom of using online platforms in different industries, including investment banking and corporate banking, obviously. So could you give me your thoughts on like online meetings and sourcing deals through platforms like Zoom?
So what happens, Nivan, especially with the banks like HSBC, their networks are so strong that the sourcing of the online deals really derives from the various fintech rails that the government has set up in the form of, the GST database, the EXIM database, the GST database, and with respect to the EDPMS and the IDPMS databases, wherein you can extract data with respect to your corporates, the kind of business they're doing across the clients in India and outside India as well. And therefore, there is a huge database mining that is possible now with the support of the guardrails that the government has put into in the current fintech world. So, the kind of database that the government is creating, as I mentioned earlier, be it the GST database on the domestic side, be the EDPMS, which is nothing but the import and the export database management system, which is developed by RBI, contains information with respect to the imports and the exports done at the client level. So what happens is these kind of databases helps us to look at clients where we have not mined them. We extract data from these kind of sources and see whether we can have substantial engagement with such kind of clients, and at the same time the companies where you can extract the information from the company's database, and all put together helps us to mine these clients across. So today with the data information flow, data is the new oil, and from that data with the online sourcing, this is a source of for on the corporate banking side. Unlike a retail and unlike a home loan or retail loan kind of scenarios where you have the DSAs, you have the online platforms, you have the P2B lendings and the B2C lending platform portals where you can look at lending or P2P lending for that matter. Corporate banking operates on a little different guidelines. They look at these kind of databases to extract company information and see whether it's worthwhile to go ahead and pursue such kind of opportunities with those companies.
And it's so awesome to see the growth of fintech and these large data platforms that give such easy access to data. But I would say the most important part of deal sourcing definitely is probably negotiations. What is your
Yes.
best negotiations advice for someone?
So, for in terms of the negotiation advice, before you go ahead, I believe it's 80% preparation and 20% face to face with the client. So, the more informed you are about the client need, the client's objective, and not putting your product in front of the client, but understanding what he needs and then accordingly providing that solution is a half battle won in negotiation. Because the moment you provide a solution which the client needs and not something which the bank wants to push across or sell across to the customer, your negotiation power itself increases multifold on the table with the client. So that's one. So basically, listening to the client and meeting their providing products to their needs rather than pushing the products to the client. And second is understanding the client's psyche in terms of how important is that particular solution for the client on his overall KRA perspective or from his overall objective perspective. So today, if that particular solution is having a huge impact on his overall business performance or overall in his personal or business objective KRA, then the client would be willing to pay you a premium over the current pricing. So those kind of negotiation points have to be prepared in advance before you go on to the negotiation table, clearly knowing that what is the need for the client and how important is the solution that you're offering to the client for the client need and from the objective or from the company's objective perspective.
Yeah, I think preparation and client study are really important when you're going to make a deal. But apart from that, is there another skill that someone like me or someone, a young corporate or investment banker or maybe someone who's aspiring to go into that field, one skill that they can develop to become a better negotiator?
I think relationship, empathy. What happens is a lot of times when you are negotiating a deal, your emotions take over. And then when emotions take over in negotiating a deal, then what happens is you leave the empathy out of the window. Now, this is where the relationship and the empathy plays an important part. So, A, having an extremely good relationship with your client, okay, and B, showcasing empathy, saying and showcasing them the value add that you're bringing on the table for them is important on the negotiations side. So while one is a very clearly a quantitative aspect in terms of what solution you're giving to the client, the other is the qualitative aspect in terms of how much are you leaving on the table for the client to appreciate that he's done something outside his comfort zone from a bank's perspective. And that is why it is very important to understand the client's psyche, that what is important for him, and leaving your emotions out of the negotiation table and not kind of getting emotionally attached to a particular discussion with the client.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that sense of empathy or drawing that connection, I think that's really important. Kind of pulls the client in when you begin the deal. But are there any other like persuasive techniques or cognitive biases that you take advantage of in order to swing the deal in your way?
So there are there it's a patience game actually, Nivan. Sometimes what happens is we tend to run in our mind quickly that this deal is getting lost, but at the end of the day, we need to understand the kind of solution and the value add that you're bringing to the client, and then wait, because what happens a lot of times, the client might not get the right solution on the table and would want to push you saying that, okay, hey, listen, I want to do this deal close at a particular pricing, but we know the value add that we're bringing to the client. So I think it is more about patience. So from a persuasiveness side, I would rather put patience in the game and wait for the client, and you should hear the client more rather than talk. So when you are on the negotiation table, try and avoid listening to the client more and then provide your input. So I think that is one more skill, that you should be a good listener during a negotiation skill, because when you are listening during a negotiation skill, it gives out a lot of points which, if you're only talking it, you might not really realize that those are the important points that can help you in negotiation. So again, as I if you look at summarizing it, I think three things. Number one, the value add that you get onto the client on the table, what objective it is meeting for the client, patience, empathy, and listening. I think these are the five things that if you bring on the table, you are in a better negotiating position with the client.
Awesome. And you said like when a deal is lost, you said, I think you spoke about patience. Would you say that patience or listening to the client, understanding their needs is a good way to recover a deal that may seem lost?
100%, because what happens is a lot of time the client is looking at you as an advisor and not as someone who's come and selling the product to you. So if you are advising the client, even if you lost the deal, what has happened in that circumstances is that you have created a equity for yourself in the client's mind, where the client says that, hey, he's come to me not with selling his product, but providing a solution to me and advising me what is required in line with my business objective. So, even if you lose a deal, I believe you build a relationship, and that could help you to get on to other kind of transaction that will come across with the client. So it's very important to it is more, I would rather say that it is important to keep the relationship intact than winning a deal. Okay. So in a negotiation, either you lose the person you win a deal or you win a relationship. Okay.
Like a win-win. Like you either win the deal or you network through, even if you lost the
Right.
deal, you almost like network and you build that relationship. So I think
Yeah.
that's really an awesome factor about this deal making aspect of investment and corporate
Yeah.
banking. But I think we focused a lot on skills that we or bankers should adopt. But let's look at the other side of the table now, the client. Are there any tells that you see in what the other person on the other end of the table is thinking?
So I think uh from the client's end, right? They are very, see, they are spoiled of choices. So from if I'm a client, right, I know that I have a number of banking relationships with me, and I can go ahead from one relationship to and jump to another relationship. But I think what the tells are from the client side, I understand that you should deal with clients who value relationship. The clients who value pricing, they will never value your relationship and see that what you're bringing on the table. Similarly, from a client side, they will always value advice from their financial partners. They will not never value a product being sold just for the sake of being sold, right? So from the tells from the client, I believe it's the ability of the banker delivering the product, delivering the solution on time, the banker providing them the right advice, and the banker coming out or coming up always at the times of the needs when they need the funding at the right time and at the right price. So I think that's the cue from the client side that they look for with a banker as a good relationship.